Hi everybody, how's it going today? I'm in our 942 here this morning, just preparing the land for seeding. Pulling our joker. It's kind of dusty here right where I'm at. So this field that I'm working on here, this had manure applied to it before that rain, so a little bit over a week ago now. It's going pretty good here. There's quite a bit of water out here. You guys probably can't see it as good as I can here, but we'll come up on some low areas with water standing in them here in a little bit. Kind of show you what we're going around. Some of them have already started to dry out. There's one here that I'm coming up on now that it's probably later this afternoon. This one will be dry enough to drive through. I'm going around it at the moment. The manure pumping crew is just finishing up. I think they had about 40 acres left this morning. They should get that done by morning. Try to pay attention here. You can see we got some water here, water down there. Water down there to my left. This field that I'm working on here is like I don't know, 250-ish acres normally, or in a dry year. And this year I'm sure we'll probably have around 40 acres on this field alone that's going to be too wet to plant here right away. Some of those spots will dry up here in the next week or so. It looks like we've got some warm temperatures coming. But a lot of those, yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. It kind of depends on the year. Some of them will dry up, some of them won't. By the end of summer, I'm sure almost all of them will be dry. They typically are. But it's less acres to work, but I think it'll take us probably longer than it normally would, just because you're turning around so many times, going around all those water holes. Just kind of a pain in the butt, I guess, but we'll deal with it. So like I said, the manure pumping crew, I think they're just finishing up. I see they're rolling up some hose out there, and I've got 40 acres is ready for planting just north of the dairy on the field there. And then I hope to get this 250 acre piece here done today. And then maybe Tyson can come plant this either tomorrow or the next day. Kind of depends where they're at. His corn planter's still sitting at our farm. They're working on soybeans. And I talked to him yesterday. I think they're getting pretty close to done with soybeans. So I don't think it'll screw up too many things. For them, they can go from soybeans right to finishing our corn here, hopefully, or at least that's the plan at this point. The 4 quarters that the dairy is on, that we just put manure on, we'll have to wait a couple more days for that. Let that dry out a little bit more before we start working that. It's I think it's June 7 today, so we've definitely planted corn a lot later than this. We've planted corn in the middle of June. We've even planted corn into July in years before, so it definitely can get a lot worse than it is already. We did switch up some of our varieties, so you have different maturity of corn. The first corn that we put in, it was 105 day, and we had lined up some, I think it was 95 day. We were going to go to that after, but with it being a little bit later now, I talked to our seed guy here yesterday. He's going to have some 85 day delivered, hopefully this afternoon, so that we can put in a little bit shorter variety with it being planted a little bit later. And hopefully we shouldn't have any issues with it in the fall, with it not being ready to chop. So hopefully he's gonna have that, yeah, like I said, hopefully we'll have that delivered today. The seed guy we work with, he's yeah, he's pretty on top of things. If we we need to change things up, or we need more of something, less of something, he can typically find it pretty quick. It did sound like he's gonna have some of that available, so we'll hopefully get that in the next couple weeks. I guess we could stop here once and show you guys what we're doing here up close. Hop out here. Nice day today, almost no wind. It's pretty unusual for us. This is the disc, you know, not running very deep, maybe an inch and a half, 2 inches at most, about an inch and a half I suppose. You can see just kind of leveling off the topsoil, making a seed bed for the seed. So this here to my left, this is done, this is ready for planting. And then this over here, this had manure put on it last week. So you can see it's kind of uneven from the manure applicator. So we inject all of our manure, and it leaves it, I mean, it's not rough, but it should be yeah, leveled off and prepped for seeding, as it is. Well, you can see it's some pretty big clumps here and spots on the top. So it looks pretty dry here looking at this, but as soon as you get under the crust, under the top there, there's plenty of moisture in the soil. Seems like it's going pretty good. This weld here that Tony made on this looks like it's holding. Hopefully that holds for the rest of this spring, and we can replace it later. So you can see this is ready for corn planting. So we're running, I have the cruise set at about 10 miles an hour. So it's running at about 1500 RPMs. If we get into a little bit wetter soils, we get up to 1600. But it's pretty quiet here in the cab, but you do hear the noise from the steering wheel. And our 936 was the same, that other reversing station. It must be the kind of motor they use for the steering system here with these reversing seats, that you can kind of hear that hydraulic noise of the steering wheel moving a little bit. So I have it set up to, when I get to the end, I just hit end and the tractor slows down and picks up the disc, and then when I turn around I hit go, and then the tractor puts the disc in the ground, engages the GPS, and then speeds up again to 10 miles an hour. So I'm slowing down to like 6.5, 7 to turn around, and then speeding up again to 10 miles an hour once I get going again the other way. So you can see here there's quite a big low area here. I just put manure on here a couple days ago. It was kind of difficult working conditions for them as well, dragging that hose around all those areas of water standing in it. Makes it quite a bit less convenient. But they got the job done. I think they'll be hoping for drier weather this fall when they come back. I didn't have a chance to go out with my camera and film any of the manure pumping up close, but I was able to get my drone out yesterday when I was, they were close enough to our house where Ian and Eli were sleeping, so I went outside the back and took some video of them putting manure on a couple fields. One of the fields was the ryegrass field from last year. I worked some of it and I left some of it standing. I was kind of wanting to see how it did in the spring, if any of it came back, and how it would look, if there was any value to it as a cover crop. And it surprisingly, it did grow back fairly decent in spots, but the variety that we seeded is not really meant to overwinter in North Dakota, so I wasn't surprised to see bare spots in areas, and areas that was really thick and in areas that was really thin. I haven't gotten the chance to ask the manure pumping guys what they thought about applying manure on that, if it was any better or worse than on the areas that I tilled up. It looked pretty wet, and it kind of felt pretty wet just driving over with the four-wheeler, but sometimes having that extra residue or plant on the top, the grass on the top, helps carry the equipment a little bit better too. So kind of curious what their thoughts on that were. If I have time here today, I can walk out there and kind of show you guys up close, I guess, how it looks.
Sam took over from me this morning here. It's mid-afternoon. I thought I'd check on him, see how it's going. He's having to go around wet spots just like I did. It didn't dry out in the afternoon. I don't know if any of you guys have noticed in previous videos, but if the mic on here sometimes will kind of bounce around and come on screen. I trimmed the hairs off, so hopefully we don't see any more of my mic. I don't really notice it when I'm filming, but I see it when Taryn edits the videos. Sometimes that hair or that fuzz comes on the screen. I trimmed it up a little bit, hopefully that helps. Other than those wet areas, it seems to be working pretty good. Soil's not cold, it's warm, but it is pretty wet. Especially down below the surface. My dad's cleaning some rocks on the far end of the field and spreading out some dirt that I cleaned out of that ditch. I think I'm gonna head over there and help him with the payloader. Just had a tour come from Farmers Union, about 50 people. They left here 30 minutes ago, so I thought I'd check on Sam, help my dad out a little bit. Thought I'd show you guys this skid steer quick. We took delivery of this new S740 here last week, I think June 1st. It's actually a leased skid steer, so we leased 3 skid steers, and it has 3 hours on it. My dad drove it for about 5 minutes, and then the beams locked up, and now our dealer's having trouble figuring out what the issue is. First, Bobcat said it's the actuator. Changed that, wasn't the issue. Now they're saying it's the wiring harness, but he's checked that and that tests out fine. So he's gonna take it in and try to diagnose it again, I guess. It's a brand new skid steer, only used for 5 minutes, and it's already broke down. It's not a good start. Seems like sometimes with new equipment you'll have some issues to start out with, but then after that it'll go pretty smooth. Hopefully that's the case. We had a S76 Bobcat, would have been the new R series, and we went back to this S740, which was the previous series, M series. They're still selling some of those M series, but we had 2 of the S76s and I didn't really like them. There was a few small issues with them, I guess, nothing major, but didn't handle as good as the M series. Changed some things with the handling, a few things in the cab that I wasn't really a fan of. If you guys are interested in knowing more, I guess, about what I think about the R series and what I think about this new one, or if you'd like to see more of it, let me know in the comments. I'm in that field where that Italian ryegrass was last year. If the stand was thicker, it'd be ready for first cutting, I think it looks like. It looks like injecting the manure went pretty good. I don't see much, if any, manure on top. Maybe in where their tractor tires were, maybe a little. Looks like most of it soaked in pretty good. But I could tell when they were working here last night that around those low areas where the soil's a little bit wet, it definitely was really wet. It's probably hard to see the edge of those wet areas when there's grass growing there. When it's a bare field, you can clearly see what's dry and what's not, because the wet dirt is typically a lot darker. If you walk over, so from here on, I disked this field in the fall. So it was also Italian ryegrass, but we disked it up, and this looks like this went pretty good too. I think we might have to disc that twice because it looks like well, we'll see how it goes. Probably won't be able to go deep enough to get all that grass turned over the first time. But we'll find out when we get there, I guess. Taryn and Ian and Eli are at the farm here walking around. I think I'm gonna go see what they're doing. I think that'll probably be it for this video. Appreciate you guys watching, and hopefully we'll see you in the next one.